Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone. Today we will be starting with lecture 4, that is review of literature. I am Dr. Harmeet Kaur Kang from Chitkara University, Punjab. So today we will be discussing about the literature review, that what are the functions or what are the purposes of literature review, and the different sources of literature review, and what should be the depth and breadth of literature review which we should cover, and where you can locate the relevant literature. Now let us talk about the literature review first of all. A research literature review is a written summary of the state of existing knowledge of a research problem. Whatever research studies are conducted, these are not conducted in the intellectual vacuum. All the research studies are always undertaken with the context to the previous knowledge. So whatever is known earlier, based upon some problems are understood, and what is already known and what is not known, based upon that the research topics are selected and the studies are conducted. So literature review helps us to find out that what is the existing knowledge base. So whatever written information we are able to retrieve through our searches, that is the literature review. So literature review is a written summary. It means it is a written summary, published or unpublished also, and it gives us the information about the existing knowledge on the topic of our research study. And basically the task of reviewing the research literature involves the identification, means you need to identify the research studies done on the area of your research study, and then after identifying the studies which can be research based or non-research based literature also, then you see and you screen them, and then you select that whatever studies are relevant to your topic, those you will be selecting, and after that critically analyzing those studies for finding out the gaps, for finding out the limitations and strengths of those studies, and then after that you write the description of the existing information on a topic. Now let us talk about what are the purposes of literature review. First and foremost is identification of a research problem and refinement of research questions and hypotheses. As we have discussed in the last lecture also, that literature review can serve as a very good source for identification of a research problem, particularly for the novice researchers such as you undergraduate students. It is very difficult for you to finding the topic for your research study, and if you go and study the literature, you will get a really good idea for your research topics. And once you will be going through the studies on the particular area, you can really refine your research questions. You will get to know that how you can write and formulate your research questions and how you can formulate the hypothesis. Second one is orientation to what is known and not known about an area of inquiry. So once you will search the literature, you will review the literature, you will get to know that what is the existing base of the knowledge and what is already known about that particular area and what is not known. And then we get to know that how our research can make a contribution to existing base of evidence. So whatever is not known, we may add to the knowledge base and we can provide the evidence. Third one is determination of any gaps or inconsistencies in the body of knowledge. So whatever body of knowledge or body of research you are able to retrieve through your search for the literature review, you have to read that those research studies fully and try to critically analyze those. And after critically analyzing, you will be able to see that what are the inconsistencies in those studies, what are the gaps. And sometimes inconsistency, you will find that maybe on the particular area number of studies have been done, but all the studies are giving the different findings. Then in your mind the question may come that why these findings are different in different studies, and then you can think of improving the methodology of your study, and you can go and read the limitations which are given in those studies, and you can try to provide the better evidence through your study in which you will be using the sound methodology. And plus, when you are determining any gap or inconsistencies, that will help you to provide the information about the need of your study. Fourth one is determination of a need to replicate a prior study in a different setting or with a different study population. So sometimes your problem area which you have selected, you may see that studies have been done, but then once you will go through those studies, you may get to know that those studies might have been done in different countries or different settings or on the different study populations. Then you can think of replicating that study, and through the literature you can through the literature review you can give the information that why you are thinking of replicating and how your study is different from the prior studies and how it will be helping in providing the better evidence. So it helps you to determine the need for the replication, particularly replication in the different setting or within a different study population. Next one is identification or development of new or refined clinical interventions to test through empirical research. So here, through the literature review, we get to know that there might be so many clinical interventions which may not be useful. Then you can do a literature review and you get to know that what clinical interventions are needed to be developed. And based upon the guidelines given or based upon the earlier researches, you can think of refining the clinical interventions, and then those clinical interventions can be tested through your research studies, through using the experimental or non-experimental methodology. You can test those clinical interventions for their usefulness in the nursing practice. Another purpose is identification of relevant theoretical or conceptual frameworks for a research problem. Whenever you are doing a study, so many times you base your study on some theoretical concepts, some theories which are already available. Maybe the theories which are from a nursing field, maybe sometimes conceptual frameworks or theories which might be devised from some psychological theories. So through the literature review, you get to know that which are the theoretical or conceptual frameworks which you can use for your research study. So you can identify those theories and you can identify the conceptual frameworks which you can use for your research study. Next one is identification of suitable designs and data collection methods for a study. So many times researchers, particularly the new researchers, they don't have any idea that the research problem which they have think of what type of designs will be suitable and what type of data collection methods they can think of using. But through literature review, you get to know that which can be the suitable designs, because when you study the earlier research studies which are done on that area, you can get an idea that which type of suitable designs you can use for your study and what type of data collection methods you can use. Then for those developing research proposals for funding, identification of experts in the field who could be used as consultants. So when you are going through the literature review, you get to know that there might be experts or researchers who might have conducted number of studies in that area, who might be experts in that area, and sometimes you may need to identify the experts on that particular area. So through literature review, you identify those experts, and sometimes when you are applying for funding and you have to apply for the research proposal, at the time you need the name of some experts in those areas also, and you can give the names through the literature review. Then assistance in interpreting study findings and in developing implications and recommendations. Once you conduct the study, you have collected the data, you have analyzed the data, now you may have the problem that how to interpret the study findings, how to write the interpretation. So once you will go through the research studies which have already been done, you will be getting the support for interpreting the findings, because you see that how the previous studies have written the interpretation, you can also write in the same way. And also you can write the implications and recommendations for your study also. So particularly at undergraduate level or postgraduate level, students might find it difficult to write. So through the literature review, you can get an idea. Another purpose is that literature review also plays a role in the end of the study, where researchers are trying to make sense of their finding. So in the end, you have interpreted the results also, but when you have to write the discussion, you have to make the sense of the findings of your study. And in the starting, the researchers do not know that how they can discuss their findings, how they can make the sense of their findings. So that also they can try to write with the help of the literature review. They can go and read the previous research studies which have been done and how they have discussed their findings based upon the previous findings. That help you can get through the literature review, and you can really nicely write your discussion chapter where you can give the basis of your findings, where you can talk about similarities or contradictions with the previous literature, and what were the reasons for those similarities or contradiction. So very beautifully you can write, but if you are reviewing the literature, you can get a really good support for that. A literature review early in the report provides readers with a background or understanding the current knowledge on a topic. Whenever you read a research report, you see that in the introduction part, they always give the information about the current knowledge on that area. So that also you get through the literature review only. So in the first chapter or in the research report, when you are writing the introduction or background, you have to have the knowledge about that particular problem. So that information you can get through the literature review only. And based upon the understanding of the current knowledge, you can write the significance or need for the new study which you are conducting. So literature review can really help you to write the background and the need for your study. Now let us talk about the sources of literature review. For a literature review, you should rely mostly on the primary sources. Now, what are the primary sources? Primary sources are the research reports which are description of the studies written by the researchers who conducted them. So, primary sources are the research studies which are written by the researchers who have conducted. For example, once you will be conducting your study, you write the dissertation or your thesis. So the thesis which is written by the researcher who has conducted is a primary source, or the research report which is given in a or which is published in a journal and published by the researcher himself is a primary source. Mostly for our literature review, we should rely on the primary sources. Then is secondary source. Secondary source of the literature review are the research documents or description of the studies which are prepared by someone else other than the original researcher. So here maybe sometimes the other person, he may do a literature search and he may collect the all the studies which have been conducted on the area and gives the information. So that particular review can be published. So now that particular secondary review is not given by the researcher who has conducted. So that becomes a secondary source, right? So literature review summarizes the information of the primary studies, right? So in the literature review, in the secondary source of the literature review, the author may give the information about the primary studies which have been done on that particular area. And if you go and read the bibliography of the secondary sources, that can be really useful for you. And through that bibliography, you can go and locate the primary source of that data. Why I'm saying that we should always go and locate the primary source, because once the study has not been conducted by the person may be citing the other person's study, he may miss so much of information. So secondary sources may not be giving the full information about the research study which has been conducted. So you should always try to locate the primary source, but secondary sources might help you to locate the primary studies, and you should always read the secondary sources fully and then go to the bibliography to see that what are the primary sources. And even whatever literature review you also write in your chapters, those summaries are also the type of the secondary sources, because you read the primary source, then you summarize it, and then you write into your literature review. So then that becomes a secondary source. Okay, now let us talk about that. What should be the depth and breadth of literature coverage? So many times students have a question that how much literature review I have to cover, how many studies I have to cover. So always the depth and breadth of literature coverage depends upon what type of work you are doing, what type of research work you are doing. Are you writing a thesis at undergraduate level? Are you writing a research thesis or dissertation at PhD level? Are you writing a research report for a journal? So based upon the type of the research work or research report, your literature coverage depth and breadth may vary. And the major type of the research reviews include the following. You may have you may be writing a review included in a research report, a review included in a research proposal. Now research report is a report which we send to a journal for publishing, which is a small report. Then research proposal is like you have to apply for funding to any government agencies or any funding agency, and you have to write the proposal that I want to conduct a study on this area and why I need a funding. So there you need to explain the need for the study. Then is review in a thesis or dissertation. Thesis can be of undergraduate level, postgraduate level, or doctoral level. Then freestanding literature review, where the secondary analysis is done, means the primary studies are collected on a particular area and those are presented as a review. Now let us talk one by one that how much depth and breadth you have to cover depending upon what type of review you are writing. So first one is a review included in a research report. So research reports published in the journal usually include brief literature review in their introduction. Here you will see that research reports which are published in the journals, those usually may not have a separate place for the literature review. They cover the literature review in their introduction only. And all the journals have their own style of writing, and all the journals give the limitations for the words. So based upon the limitation of the words, you have to write the literature review. So here you have mostly brief literature review. And these reviews are succinct and have two major goals. So main goals of review here are, one is to provide the reader with a quick overview of the state of knowledge on the research problem being addressed. So here we give them the overview that what is the current state of knowledge on the area on which the researcher has conducted the research. Second one is to document the need for the new study. So based upon the current knowledge, what were the gaps in the knowledge and what is the need for the new study and what type of the new evidence it will be providing for the study. So your review should be basically, if you are writing a research report for publishing in the journal, should be based upon these two major goals. And here you have to write briefly. Okay, the next thing is a review which is included in a research report. A review in a proposal provides a knowledge context and confirms the need for and significance of new research. Now, this is a proposal where you are proposing a study. Particularly, research proposals are sent for maybe the government agencies for funding. There are sometimes call for proposal on different areas, different priority areas. So there basically you have to provide the knowledge context, that what is already known about that particular area and what is the need and significance of the new research, the topic which you have selected, that what is the need and why it is significant. And the length of such reviews may be established in proposal guidelines. All of the agencies, they provide the guidelines that how many words should be there for the review or how many words should be there for providing the background or need for the study. So as per the word limit, you may write the research proposal, and usually in the research proposal, good amount of the literature review should be covered because you have to emphasize on the need for the study. Third one is a review in a thesis or dissertation. Now, thesis and dissertation depends upon what type of the level of education is there. Is it an undergraduate level of thesis or it is a doctoral level of thesis? Usually in the thesis and dissertation, number of studies have to be included and it might be a lengthy review. So first of all, we will talk about doctoral dissertations. So doctoral dissertations often include a thorough review and it covers the materials directly and indirectly related to the problem area. So here you include the studies which are directly done on that problem area or sometimes indirectly also, which is informing about the knowledge base. So you have to do a thorough review for the doctoral dissertations, and usually entire chapter is devoted to a summary of the literature, and some chapters are frequently 15 to 25 pages in length. So it is a thorough review, it is a lengthy review. But at undergraduate level, the review chapter are frequently 5 to 10 pages only, and sometimes at some institutions they provide that how many literature reviews that the students have to cover, and they also tell that it should be a recent review only, where you may be asked to cover the research studies which have been conducted within last 10 years, and based upon that you can write your review. Fourth one is freestanding literature review. Now, freestanding literature reviews are the reviews where the researcher summarizes a body of research on a topic. Now, what is body of research on a topic means? Whatever all primary studies have been conducted on that area are identified, then those are critically appraised, means critically analyzed for the quality, and then we summarize that. And such reviews play a powerful role in the development of an evidence-based research. Nowadays, systematic reviews and meta-analysis, those are considered as the best evidence. Why those are considered as the best evidence? Because one or two research studies conducted on any area cannot provide the evidence, because those studies may or may not have used the sound methodology. So you cannot say that it is providing a quality evidence. But once We collect all the primary studies conducted on that area, and then we try to give the evidence based upon all those studies, that is quality evidence. So nowadays nurses are more and more getting involved in conducting such type of the reviews, and all the policies and new guidelines are based upon those types of the reviews and meta-analysis, which are really higher level, or I will not say higher, but highest level of the evidence-based practice. And students are sometimes asked to prepare a written research review for a course. Sometimes students may also be asked to simply write a review, means they might be given a research problem area and they need to conduct a search and identify the studies which have been done on that area, and they can write the research review for a course. Then nurses sometimes do literature review as part of utilization projects. So sometimes nurses who are working in the clinical area, they may also conduct the research review, such type of the literature reviews which might be useful for their projects in the clinical area. So expert researchers do integrative reviews. So integrative reviews are the in-depth reviews that are published as journal articles or that contribute to major evidence-based practice projects. So as I talked to you about systematic reviews and meta-analysis, these reviews are considered as very good evidence for the evidence-based practice. Okay, now let us talk about that, how to locate the relevant literature for a research review. Now you know what are the sources and how much depth and breadth you have to cover, but where you can locate the literature for your research study, right? So earlier, mostly the research reviews or literature reviews used to be done manually, but nowadays technological changes have taken place, and majority of the students or majority of the researchers, they do the online search for locating the research. And so the ability to identify and locate the document on a research topic is an important skill that requires adaptability. So it means you need to adapt to the new technological advances, because rapidly technological advances are taking place and you need to adapt yourself so that you can use the different methods which are coming up, right? So rapid technological changes such as expanding use of internet. Now everybody uses internet for search. It is very easy to search the literature on a different area, and because of that, these online sources are making manual methods of finding information from print resources obsolete. So now the print resources have become obsolete. No more the researchers are going and searching manually. All the information is available online. So new methods of online searches are coming up, and as students you should be adapting to this technological change, and you should also know how to locate the literature through the online searches. Now let us talk about, first of all, electronic literature search. Now electronic databases, number of electronic databases are available online, and students can perform their own searches. You can sit at home, you can sit in the university, and you can search your own literature, right? So there are huge bibliographic files that can be accessed by the computer. There are number of databases available through which you can search. And most of the electronic databases of interest to nurses can be accessed through the online search. So you can search online, but please make sure that whatever search you are doing, you should be doing on the databases. You should not go and search on Yahoo. You should not search on even Google. Google Scholar is okay, but simple Google search may not give you the authentic information. It may give you just the information in the Wikipedia, but whether that is based upon the research, whether you will be able to add to your bibliography and references, you will be able to cite that who has written that. So always try to use the authentic databases for your search. Mapping is a feature that allows you to search for topics in your own words. Always try to map that in a database which type of words you can use. Mostly we should use the synonym words. Means if you are doing a study on a particular area or a particular concept, that concept's different synonyms you can put while searching, so that you can get really good number of research studies done on that particular area. Whenever you are searching on the databases which are available online, you can use these Boolean operators. These are known as Boolean operator, and there are three Boolean operators. This is and, or, not. So if I talk about particularly in our health research, PubMed is a very good database where you will get really a good amount of health literature data. But how to search? There is a way to search. So for searching, you should try to use these Boolean operators, that is and, or, not. Please always remember these all should be in capital. So I'll give you one example, that for example your study is prevalence of asthma and bronchitis in India. Now your concept is, one is asthma, another one is bronchitis. Now how you can use the Boolean operators? If you will be using the Boolean operator and, then you can write asthma, capital and bronchitis. So what does it mean? How your results will be varying with this, that every result item contains every search item. So means it will be including the search, it will be including the research studies which will have both the terms asthma and bronchitis together only. It will not search the studies which are having asthma separately and bronchitis separately. All the research studies which you will be getting through the search will be having asthma and bronchitis together. So you will be getting the less results. But if you are using the word or, then asthma, capital or, and bronchitis you will be writing in your search, and every research item contains at least one term. So now here your search will include at least one term. Either it will be including asthma or bronchitis separately or together also. So because now here whatever research studies you will be collecting, you will be identifying or getting through the search will have asthma separately also, bronchitis separately also, and together also these searches will be there. So you will be getting more results. Third one is not, asthma, not bronchitis. So every research item contains the first term. Now whenever you are using word not, it will be including first term but not the second term. So all the studies wherever your title or abstract is containing asthma but not containing bronchitis, you will be getting those results. So every result item contains the first term and does not contain the rest. Search results will include the studies with term asthma but not bronchitis. So through these Boolean operators, you can search more number of studies also, and you can even limit if you don't want. Sometimes like whenever you are searching for asthma and bronchitis, you may be unnecessarily getting the studies done on maybe emphysema or the studies done on COPD. Then you may not be wanting those studies, so you can use not asthma but not COPD, sorry. So asthma, not COPD will give you the results of the studies conducted on asthma but not COPD. Now our topic was prevalence. So what you can do is you can write prevalence and asthma or bronchitis, right? So you will be getting the studies which are done on asthma and bronchitis together or separately, and what is their prevalence. So you will be getting your research studies through your search, which the number of research studies you will be getting more, but you can limit also that unnecessary studies you should not be getting. I would like to give you some tips for the electronic search. So if you want to identify all major research reports on a topic, you need to be flexible and you please think about the keywords that could relate to your topic. So this is not that you are putting only one word. You may use different words which can be the synonym for those words. For example, if you are interested in anorexia nervosa, you might look under anorexia. You may use the word anorexia or eating disorder or weight loss or anorexia nervosa. So number of words, you may go and check on the Google that what are the synonyms of this word, and all those synonyms you can write. And perhaps under appetite you can write eating behavior also, you can write food habits, bulimia or body weight change. So different words you can use, because different researchers might have used in their primary studies different words. So you should not lose the studies who might have used the other word. So always use the different synonyms while you are searching online. Another tip is that if your topic include independent and dependent variable, you may need to do a separate search for each. So if you are having two concepts, one can be an independent variable and another can be a dependent variable, then you should search separately, and then after searching separately, you try to bring those two terms together. So for example, if you were interested in learning about effect of health beliefs on compliance behavior among patients with AIDS, read about health beliefs in general and about compliance behavior in general. So you may read about health beliefs also, you may read about compliance behaviors also. And then these particular general studies which you might be finding can help you to write your introduction, can help you to write your need, and after separately searching you can bring these terms together, and then you can find the research studies which are done specifically health beliefs and the compliant behaviors. Now, what are the key electronic databases which are available for nurses? Important database which is particularly for nursing and allied health literature is CINAHL. So this is a cumulative index to nursing and allied health literature. This is a very good database where so many journals are there and so many research articles and non-research articles and even books can also be found. Then is Medline. Medline is also known as PubMed. So Medline is particularly a database of National Medical Library, US based National Medical Library, and on PubMed around 50,000 journals are there. Then AIDS line is AIDS information online. If you are doing any information on any research study on AIDS, if you are doing any study on cancer, CancerLit is a good database. Then combined health information database, CHID, is also useful. Another key database is AMBASE, the Experta Medica database. This is also including number of journals and research studies. This can be very useful for you to search your research problem. Then is ETO. ETO is if you are doing a study on alcohol and alcohol problem science database, this is a good database. Then HealthStar, which is on health services and technology. PsycInfo, psychology information administration and research. Okay, now coming to the print resources. Although nowadays manual searches are not done, but sometimes if you are not able to locate some studies full text, and you know that some libraries are available where you have the print journals available, you can go and get the manual, you can go and search manually, and then you can get the research studies full text in those journals. So print-based resources that must be searched manually are rapidly being overshadowed by electronic database, but their availability should not be ignored. We should not ignore the availability, because many times online you might be getting only titles and abstracts, and you want to get a full text for that study. So then maybe in your own university's library or in any other library, like for example, we are having National Medical Library at Delhi. So there are number of journals are available. So you can go and locate the journal there, and you can get the full text for your research study there also. Then there in the libraries there are print indexes available. Print indexes are what? These are the boxes that are used to locate articles in journals and periodicals. So you may search for the topic area, and under that topic area the information about the research articles, dissertation, books is given, and you can get the bibliographic information from there, and then you will be able to know that in which journal this particular article is there, and then either online or manually you can search. So sometimes these print indexes can be very useful. Another is abstract journals. Abstract journals are the journals which summarize the articles. They do not have the full text, but they are having only the abstract. So these can be useful because they give the summary also about the study. So you may get to know that whether this particular study might be relevant to your research study or not, and if you feel that after reading the abstract that it is useful, then you can go and search online or print resources manually. So I would like to give you a tip that if you're doing a completely manual search, it is wise to practice to begin the search with most recent issue of the index or abstract journal and then to proceed backward. Always search recent articles first and then proceed backwards, because maybe sometimes you may get good number of literature, good number of research studies done on that area in the recent years only, and you may not need to go and search many years back the studies which have been done. And many times the universities, they ask the students to write the research reviews, write the reviews which should be including the primary studies which have been done within the last 10 years. So you should be focusing mostly on the most recent issues. Okay, now you know how to locate the relevant literature review. But once you have identified the studies, how you can read the research reports, because many times students may identify the research reports, but usually they don't have any idea that how they should start reading the research reports and how they can make the sense of those research reports. So I would like to give you some tips on reading the research reports. Number one is grow accustomed to the style of research report by reading them frequently. You should keep on reading the research reports so that you can become accustomed. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to make sense of the research reports. But once you will keep on reading, then you will be really understanding the style which the research reports use, and you will be able to make the sense of the research articles in a better way. Second thing is read from a report that has been photocopied. Photocopy the research report, and then you can underline the portions of the article. Write questions or notes in the margin and so on. Because when you are reading it online, it becomes difficult for you to write your questions or write the comments. Right? So it is better that you photocopy, and then while you are reading, if you have any questions, you can write there only in the margin, and afterwards you can go back and see that what were your thoughts on that particular research report, or what were your questions. And if you have any questions, you can go to your experts and you can ask them. Go to the experts who are your guides, and they can tell you the information about that particular research report. Then read journal articles slowly. So I feel at the first go, when you are studying the research report for the first time, it is better to read the journal articles slowly, so that you can get to know, you can make the sense of that research report in a better way when you are reading it slowly. So it may be useful to skim the article first to get the major points, and then read the articles more carefully a second time. And on the second or later reading of the journal article, train yourself to become an active reader. So automatically you will see that once you have studied firstly, then second time when you are reading, you become an active reader. You really understand it in a better way. Next is if you have comprehension problems. Many a times there might be some abbreviations used, there might be some words or some jargons which have been used in the research reports. You may have problems in comprehending. So it will be better that you go back and read it. But if you still are not clear, then it is better that you underline those and write your questions, and then you can go and ask someone for clarification. That someone can be the expert person in that particular area, or it can be your guide who is expert in the research. So they can be able to help you in comprehending those particular difficult passages or difficult areas. Try to grasp the gist of the story without letting formulas and numbers frustrate. Many a times students, once they start reading the research report and they see the statistical terms, they see the statistical analysis, they really feel that they will not be able to understand. So you just leave those formulas or leave those numbers which you are not able to understand. You just try to grasp the gist, that what it is. Maybe in a study, somebody might have conducted an experimental study and he might have used some statistical tests, maybe t-test or odds ratio, and you may not be able to understand, but at least you should be able to understand what methodology they have used and their interpretation in the conclusion or in the discussion part. And you may leave the formulas and numbers if you are not understanding those, but you should grasp the gist of the story. Then you may translate the research articles mentally or in writing. Whatever research articles you are reading, try to understand and translate in your own words, because you should not use the same wording which is used in the primary researches in your review, because it is known as plagiarism. Whatever you are studying, you should translate it in your own words and then you should write it. And you can do this by recasting the report into an active voice and by summarizing the findings with the words rather than numbers. So it is better to summarize the findings with numbers. Don't say that the mean knowledge score was this in pre-test and post-test this. It is better to write that the mean knowledge of the patients increased after this particular intervention. So try to put it in words rather than numbers, and whatever you are writing, try to summarize and write it in your own language. Read the articles critically. Now here you don't have to give only a summary, you have to critically analyze, because critical reading involves an evaluation of researchers' major conceptual and methodological decisions also. You have to read the research fully and critically, and you should try to see that what type of conceptual and methodological decisions are taken by the researcher. Are these sound decisions, or there are some limitations? So you can write those strengths and limitations while you are reading. So try to make the habit to critically analyze the research report which you are reading. Okay, now after reading, you should know to prepare a written literature review. How you can prepare a written literature review? First of all is screening the references. Now you have searched, maybe you have searched online, or you have searched through a search manually and use the print resources. Now maybe you might have got number of studies. For example, you have got 250 studies on a particular area. Now you have to start screening. Now what is screening? Screening means you have to see that which particular studies you feel that those are relevant to your research study. Those studies only you will be including there, and the other studies which you feel are not relevant as per your research problem, you can remove that. So references that have been identified through the literature search need to be screened and assessed for the relevance to your study. Next stage is abstracting and recording the note. Now, what is abstracting and recording the note? Like, once you determine that this is relevant, now you should read the entire report carefully and critically. Now you will be reading it fully. Full text has to be read, and read it once, twice, thrice, till the time you are able to make the sense, and critically analyze it. Then identify the material that is sufficiently important to warrant note taking. So then you see that which are the important points of the research literature or research report which you want to write, and observe the flaws in the study or gaps in the report also. And then you try to see that what are the flaws in the study. Were there any flaws in the methodology, or are you seeing any problem in the analysis part? So you can see what are the gaps or what are the flaws in the study, and that you can write. And write a summary of the report's strength and limitation. So you should not ignore even strength. You should write, if you see that methodology is good, a very big sample size has been used, then you can write it in strengths also. At the same time, whatever limitations are there, that also should be written. The limitation can be written based upon your critical analysis or limitations given by the researcher in their research reports also. Another important step is organizing the review. Now you have the summary of number of research studies. Now how to organize your review? So organizing is a very important task, and when a literature on the topic is extensive, you may make a summary table. So now organization, you may think that how I'm going to organize. Sometimes you may organize in the form of sections. Maybe one section might be covering the important information on a one aspect of your research problem, and another section might be covering on another aspect. And if you are having an extensive literature review, it is better to prepare a summary table. So summary table may give the information about all the research reports which you have included, and it may be a table form in which you can give the information about year of study, authors, and what were the research variables, and what type of instruments have been used, and what were the findings. In brief, you can give it in the summary table. And it is useful to write out the outline for a lengthy article. In a lengthy article, you give an outline rather than giving for each and every article a full one paragraph. You can see that what information is similar in different studies that you can write together. Maybe at undergraduate level, sometimes you may find it difficult, but at the postgraduate level and at the doctoral level, usually the literature review should be written in continuity, where you try to grasp the gist of different articles and you write all the areas together rather than giving the information about each article separately. And the overall goal is to make the review logical. So the way you are writing the review, it should be written in a logical way, and it should be demonstrating the meaningful integration leading to a conclusion about what is not known and what is not known. So once you have written your review, in the end you can write in your own words and conclude that on this particular area this is known and these are the gaps, or this is the thing which is not known, and based upon that you can emphasize on the significance or need for your research study. Then writing a literature review. A written research review should provide readers with an objective, well-organized summary of the current state of knowledge. So it should be a very well-organized, objectively written review, which should be summarizing the current state of the current state on the topic on which you are conducting the research. And the central task of the literature review is to summarize and critically evaluate the evidence so as to reveal the current state of knowledge on topic. So it should be summarizing, at the same time it should be critically evaluating the existing knowledge base on that particular area. And I'm again telling you that reviews should not simply describe, it should not simply summarize, but but a critical analysis of research report is also needed. So you should always take care that critical analysis of research report should always be there in your literature review. Another tip for writing the literature review, so when describing study findings, you should generally use phrases such as several studies have found, or findings have suggested, or results from the landmark study indicated, the data supported the hypothesis, or there appears to be a strong evidence. So like this you can use the wording while writing the literature, and you can connect the findings of one study with the other while using these phrases. This is an example of a written review literature. I have picked it from the Indian Journal of Psychiatry. The study has been done in 2019. So this study was done on impact of brief psychosocial interventions on key relatives of patients with schizophrenia, a randomized controlled trial. So here you can see how the authors have written. So like for example, the first word is existing evidences suggest. So it means what is the existing knowledge base on this particular area. It suggests that positive psychosocial environment has a positive impact on the outcome of schizophrenia. Now these numbers which you are seeing is the citation from where they have got the information. So this number which is given here, this particular number, at the 15th number, that particular study's reference has been given. So whenever you are writing anything from any research, you should always cite that. It means you should give due credit to the researcher who has conducted that research study. And further you can see it is written preliminary evidences from a recent Cochrane database review also suggests the beneficial role of brief psychoeducational intervention in reducing the relapses and improving the treatment adherence in schizophrenia. So they are providing the evidences from really good databases, from really good studies. So this is the way of writing the literature review. Okay, so with this our literature review topic has been covered. This is the bibliography. I'm using these books, Paulette and Beck, Nursing Research, Principles and Methods, and Paulette and Beck, Essentials of Nursing Research and Appraising the Evidence for Nursing Practice. These are really good books which you can purchase or you can get online, and you can study these. Now summarizing the today's lecture. So we have discussed the purposes of literature review, sources of literature review. Then we have also discussed about depth and breadth of literature review to cover depending upon what type of research work you are doing. Are you writing a thesis, or you are writing a research report for a journal article, or you are writing integrative review. So depending upon that, depth and breadth of the literature review may vary. Then we have talked about the different resources, electronic resources and print resources. So under electronic resources, we talked about Boolean operators, which can be really useful for searching the articles online. Then how to read the research articles for literature review. Then in the end, we talked about preparing a written literature review. Now this is the suggestive activity which you can do. You can search any online research article on the area counseling for smoking cessation. Maybe you can change the topic. You may take a topic for which you are conducting a research study, and you can search that on PubMed. This is the link for the PubMed. Even if you go to Google and you put PubMed, you can go to the PubMed's page and you can start searching. And you use the Boolean operators and or not while searching. And after searching, you have to read only one article which is relevant to the topic suggested, and write the summary of the article after critically analyzing the article for strengths and limitations. Make sure that whatever article you are studying, at least read it twice, and then you critically analyze and write it. And this particular suggestive activity can be very useful for you to write the literature review. So thank you. With this, we have covered the lecture 4 on the literature review. So in the next lecture, lecture 5, we will be talking about the quantitative research designs. Thank you.